Good morning, everyone from Hawaii, and good afternoon, someone in Arizona, and everyone in between campus. I'm super excited to introduce Vipe Desai. Vipe is the founder and CEO of HDX Mix, which is an environmentally friendly sports drink mix. He's a serial entrepreneur and philanthropist who has applied his more than 3 decades of experience in launching disruptive brands and brand building and cost marketing strategies for both profit and nonprofit. Currently, Vibe is serving as a board member for Ocean Champions, Lonely Whale Foundation, Alta Sea, and RichUncles.com, and SEC reporting company managing more than 450 million in assets. Vibe has been called upon numerous brands, CEO, and even political campaigns to advise on branding, marketing, and turnaround strategies, which also included creating a collaboration for partnership for a healthier America, chaired by the First Lady, Michelle Obama. Today, Vibes focus on ensuring that future generations are met with a healthy and thriving ocean. He is involved with several ventures focused around innovations and solutions that will reduce plastic waste and minimize impact on the planet. Super excited to introduce Vibe.
Thank you so much, Marcelo. Appreciate that warm introduction. And Chelsea and Kendall, thank you so much for having me be part of this presentation at the Loma Talk today. I guess I'll start by saying welcome to all the new students. I was right there where you were many years ago. And interestingly enough, I graduated in 1991, and here we are 30 years later. And gosh, I look back on my journey and I can't believe all the different things that I've been able to experience along the way. And in all honesty, when I was starting out at Point Loma College, I had no idea what I wanted to do, where I was headed or anything. I was just a motorboat without a rudder, but somehow life unfolded for me. And, I found myself where I am today. So what I'd like to do is start out at the beginning of my journey, because I think as new students come in, you're trying to figure out where are you going to end up in life. And I guess one thing I would say is that, you just have to let life unfold for you and just be open to opportunities. And, the beginning of my journey really started with one passion, which was surfing. Chelsea, if we could go to the next slide, please. So I have been a lifelong surfer, and all I ever wanted to do was surf. I started surfing when I was 14 and I was hooked. And I found my way to Point Loma by kind of accident, in all honesty. Some neighbors of mine were from the Nazarene Church, and I started going to church with them in Torrance. And in the summer months, we would go to what was Holiness Crusade over the summer months. And I get to experience the campus, and it's where I found that there was an incredible surf break right in front of Young Hall. And at that point, I was pretty much hooked. And for years, I went to Point Loma every summer for Holiness Crusade, and really just looking forward to the summer waves and everything. But when it came time to graduate from high school, I knew that what I wanted to do was just surf. And honestly, I applied to 2 colleges. I applied to UC Santa Barbara and Point Loma. And my thinking was whichever one accepted me is where I would go, because all I wanted to do was surf. I wasn't thinking about education or a degree or anything. I just wanted to surf. So lo and behold, Point Loma was the first one to accept me and set me in motion. And I remember going to the school really excited, meeting all these incredible new folks, surfers and everything. And, it was an incredible experience. I went down there to surf, and I came out with a degree in business writing. And I had no idea what I was going to do with this degree. But as I was figuring out which degree I was going to take, that one looked like it was the easiest one. I don't know if they still offer that or not, but I'm so fortunate to have landed on that degree because it has been incredibly helpful to my career and everything that I do. But after I graduated from college in '91, I wanted to go in the surf industry. And I started applying at the manufacturers and at the brands and everything. And unfortunately, no one was looking to hire at that time. So another friend of mine who went to Point Loma with me called me up and said, the local surf shop is for sale. We should buy it. So Tom Kozat and I ended up buying a surf shop together. And that is what really kind of sprung me into the surf industry. I had no idea what I was doing, but all I wanted to do was surf. And if it meant working at a surf shop and running a surf shop, that would be totally fine by me. And sure enough, I learned a lot working at the surf shop, running a surf shop, building it, working with numerous brands that many of you probably know of today, some of which came out of our surf shop as well. But one of the things that happened, or a couple of things that happened at the surf shop, was that it was continuing education for me. I continued to learn and apply the new things that I wanted to be part of. And one of the things that I discovered in myself was that I had an interest and a passion in marketing. Had no idea that this was hidden inside my mind, but I really got enamored with marketing and branding. And so one of the things that I did was I created an event. And it was a one-day surfing, one-day snowboarding event, and sandwiched in between it was a concert. So that was in '91, '92. And, you may think of that as not a big deal. And I didn't think it was a big deal at the time as well. But the H2O Winter Classic that came out of my surf shop is what inspired the creation of the Warped Tour and the X Games. So two big, fun events that have been impactful in youth culture and in music. And we also had some incredible bands come through the event as well, which were Blink-182 played at our event, 30 Seconds to Mars, Pennywise. I mean, just a whole host of bands came through us. So keeping that marketing passion going, building up the event and everything, working with brands was an incredible experience at the surf shop. And it's also where I would come into contact with ocean conservation for the first time. First thing that happened was I remember a group of folks from Surf Rider Foundation came into my store and were telling me about a beach cleanup. And it's where I learned about Surf Rider and the work that they were doing. So that was the beginning of my effort in conservation and advocacy. And it was very, very light, but it was exciting. And I didn't know how much of everything that was going on at the surf shop was going to kind of spring me into my next role. And so, Chelsea, next slide, please. What I really wanted to get more involved in was consumer marketing, advertising, and branding. So after my surf shop days, I started a youth marketing agency. And this was about 98, 99. And at this time, the X Games and the Warped Tour were in full-blown mode. Corporations around the world were trying to tap into this youth culture and surfing and skateboarding and snowboarding, everything that I had been passionate about for many, many years. So the agency was there to help corporations find their way into the action sports industry, whether it was through events, through brand collaborations, or through athletes. And one of the things that happened there was we got a brand out of Austria that approached us to help them launch here in the United States. So that was a little brand that some of you might be familiar with called Red Bull. So in 1998, my agency was tapped to help launch Red Bull here in the US. I orchestrated their organization chart and their marketing strategy into the action sports industry, and the rest is history from there. And it was an exciting group of people to work with, and just super fun, very disruptive type of work there. But this is also where my conservation interests would continue to grow as well. The Surfrider Foundation folks, this time headquarters, reached out to me and asked if our agency would do pro bono work for them. And I was excited to jump at the chance to work with them, be more involved in their work and their mission. So I started creating marketing and advertising campaigns for them, connecting them to the brands that I was working with through the agency, and just trying to help them out any way I could. Fundraising, marketing, anything that I could do. And a few years later, after working with them, I got approached by them to join their board of directors. And it was the first time that I had been invited to join a board, and I had no idea what was in store for me. But what I'll share with all of you is that while Point Loma was an incredible experience to start my journey and earn a degree, the retail store was another area for me to grow my skills and learn new things about myself and my passion for marketing. It really was the boardroom that accelerated my learning journey. And I would say one lesson is that if you really want to take your leadership, if there's some alumni here, joining a board is the equivalent of earning an MBA. It has been an incredible experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I've learned so much and met so many incredible people that it's helped me to get to where I am today. So think about joining a board if you're ever given that opportunity. It's an incredible experience. Chelsea, next slide, please. So this is what the boardroom can sometimes look like. This right here is the boardroom for an organization called Ocean Champions that I served on the board with for a number of years. But between Surfrider Foundation, the Rob Dyrdek Foundation, some of you may know about Rob with his work on MTV, and Five Gyres Institute, probably about a dozen boards is where I've been invited to serve within. And it's been an exciting opportunity to share within the boardroom, but also learn about big picture mission and programs that are going on. Today it's one of those things where, like, I'm involved with Ocean Institute, with education and research. But I also realized during this time, as I started moving more towards full-time board roles, that we had to start working with consumers. Ocean conservation was really starting to take shape in the public eye. And during this time, I got an opportunity to work with Lonely Whale Foundation, and I was invited to join their advisory board. And some of you may know about Lonely Whale Foundation, but you may not. And you may know the founder, which is Adrian Grenier. Adrian's an actor, and he's famous for his role in Entourage from HBO. But Adrian and his team reached out and asked if I would join their board and help them craft some programs and strategies. And I'd like to share one of those with you at this time. Chelsea, if we could roll the Stop Sucking campaign, that would be great.
I suck.
I may not look like I suck, but I do.
Dan Jones sucks.
I've been sucking on TV since I was 10.
Everywhere I could suck, I would suck.
I've sucked in over 90 countries.
Democrats, Republicans, independents, we all suck.
You know who else sucks? Kendrick Sampson.
I'm Kendrick Sampson, and I suck.
We suck together.
Sure, I've sucked, but Una sucks even more.
Una sucks.
And I suck.
And I suck.
And I suck. When someone tweets, I suck, I'm like, I know.
Statistically speaking, most of us suck. Most of us suck every day.
Suck, suck, suck.
Suck.
Today, you probably used one of these.
500 million plastic straws are used in this country.
Every single day.
And many end up in the ocean, polluting water and killing sea life.
If we don't act now, by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish.
You know, like you go snorkeling, you look down, and you don't see fish, you see plastic.
But there's something you can do about it.
I will stop sucking.
I will stop sucking.
We will all stop sucking.
We will all stop sucking.
If you do.
Hashtag stop sucking.
Thank you, Kendall. I'm sorry, Chelsea. Thank you, Chelsea. Hopefully you recognize some of the folks that were in that video, but it was a really fun project to work on, and it was combining my business knowledge of how industry functions, how restaurants function, but also putting together a message that would be able to reach consumers using these celebrity faces. But the video went on to win awards and really get a lot of people thinking about plastic straws and ocean conservation. And I hope many of you will maybe take the pledge and stop sucking as well if you use a plastic straw. Chelsea, next slide, please. So one of the things that I've learned as well during this time of serving on boards is that I have an opportunity to be a force for good. Chelsea, next slide, please. Being a force for good, using my business background and my marketing experience and all the relationships that I've been able to build up, being able to use it to advance good policy or good programs that will further go on to protect the ocean. This right here, this image is me up on Capitol Hill, and I was invited by the Senate Democrats Climate Action Committee to weigh in on the 30 by 30 plan. And some of the comments that I shared during that presentation made it into the proposal and the campaign. So it's still being worked out, but having a seat at the table to bring voice and recognition to it has really helped shape the way that I engage with ocean conservation now, and bringing the business community together with lawmakers, whether it's local, state, or federal, but also nonprofit organizations, has been some of my most prized work that I'm most proud of. And one of the organizations that I've been able to help create is called the Business Alliance for Protecting the Pacific Coast. There's an East Coast Alliance and a Gulf Coast Alliance, but collectively what we have done is brought 55,000 plus businesses together to unite as one voice to help protect our coastal economies. And our first initiative was to push back on the previous administration's efforts to drill off of our coasts for gas and oil. And this effort took a lot of time and energy, but it brought all the right stakeholders together to raise the concern that our coastal communities were worth protecting. And, you know, one of the things that I was able to share in this, to give everybody some context, is that, you know, the ocean is an incredible economic engine. And if you look at where we as society live, it's on the coasts. And when you take the amount of wealth and work and economic activity that takes place along our coast, whether it's real estate, hotels, restaurants, hanging out at the beach, anything that is close to the beach has value. And we want to protect it. And that's what I want to do. My surf shop was on the beach. And I remember several times when there was storm runoff and the waters were polluted and the beaches were closed, it would have an impact on my business. Sales would tank. So it's the same thing that we were trying to protect with opposing offshore oil and gas drilling and bringing all of these folks together. Actually, at this time, Chelsea, can we go ahead and play the testimony video as well? This is a video where I was invited to testify before members of Congress on behalf of the Business Alliance for Protecting the Pacific Coast, but also other businesses as well.
Carol. Next, the chair recognizes Mr. Desai for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on the importance of protecting our coastlines from offshore drilling. My name is Vipe Desai, and I'm a founding member of the Business Alliance for Protecting the Pacific Coast, BAPAC, an alliance of more than 2,400 businesses whose owners and employees love and understand, as I do, just how valuable a healthy Pacific is to our local, state, and national economies. BAPAC aims to ensure the long-term health and vitality of our ocean ecosystems, coastal businesses, communities, and clean energy future. We voiced our opposition to plans for expansion of offshore oil and gas drilling, and I am happy to represent our alliance here today. I would like to begin my testimony with a quick story of how the Pacific has been an important part of my journey. I was an inner-city kid growing up an hour away from the ocean in Los Angeles. If you had asked me at that time to describe the ocean, I would have failed to do so, as I had never actually seen it. However, a school oceanography field trip to the Port of Los Angeles would first open my eyes to the ocean and all its complexities. Years later, following a shooting at my school, my parents moved our family to Torrance, California, a small community nestled minutes from the beach, which became our real home. It was at that beach that my love of the ocean grew, and I discovered my passion for surfing. It is both a sport and lifestyle that has guided my career and family values. It is an understatement that the people of the Pacific Coast, BAPAC, and I are disheartened and dismayed that the current administration is planning to open the Pacific to expanded offshore drilling. These plans envision the first federal lease sales off the Pacific Coast in decades. Now that the United States exports oil and clean energy alternatives are becoming cheaper and more widely available, these are terribly short-sighted and reckless plans that are simply not worth the risks. The Pacific Coast is no stranger to the devastation of oil spills. The 1969 Santa Barbara oil spill and the 2015 Refugio oil spill are testaments to this. Decade after decade, American coastal communities are told by the oil and gas industry that it is committed to the safety and the prevention of these disasters, yet time and again they occur. What follows a spill is a drastic economic blow to the tourism industry as transportation, hotels, and restaurants are affected. Non-competitive housing markets due to declining housing prices and the loss of potential buyers emerge. Revenue from commercial fishing and seafood processing decreases. A spill affecting the Port of Los Angeles, an economic powerhouse that accounts for $1.2 billion in cargo a day, would have serious implications for businesses and jobs across the United States. And these are just costs to the people affected. Thousands of species of fish, sea turtles, seabirds, marine mammals, and invertebrates that make the Pacific home would be impacted. In sum, the dangers of offshore drilling put at risk California's $41.9 billion ocean economy and over 600,000 jobs. Likewise, nearly 39,000 jobs and $2 billion in GDP and 128,000 jobs and $10.2 billion in GDP, respectively, would be put at risk in Oregon and Washington. Pacific Coast states have prioritized the development of an environmentally friendly and economically profitable clean energy sector. California currently employs more energy jobs than any other state and has invested $49.2 billion in clean energy. And in both California and Washington, clean energy jobs account for more than 55% of all energy sector jobs. Additionally, Clean energy jobs outnumber fossil fuel jobs by over 430,000 and by more than 13 times in California and Washington, respectively. This is the path on which we should continue. To date, more than 340 municipalities across the United States, including 92 along the Pacific coast, have passed resolutions opposing offshore oil and gas drilling. More than 2,100 elected officials at all levels of government, including the 3 Pacific Coast governors, have also voiced their opposition. In California alone, polling indicates that 95% of residents agree that the condition of the ocean is important to their quality of life, and 69% are in opposition of new offshore drilling. For myself and on behalf of BAPAC, I applaud and thank members of Congress who are working to protect our oceans and coasts from expanded offshore drilling, and for their leadership on bills such as the Coastal and Marine Economies Protection Act, Protecting and Securing Florida's Coastline Act of 2019, and the Atlantic Coastal Economies Protection Act. The health of all American coastal communities are dependent on healthy oceans. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Desai. Next week, the chair
Thank you, Chelsea. If we could go to slide 6, that would be great. Look, for the record, I feel much more comfortable and at home in board shorts and a t-shirt with flip-flops, but every once in a while, I do put on a suit and tie when hauled up to DC. But, you know, I just look at the opportunity that I was given to, you know, take what I am passionate about, which is protecting the ocean and business interest and making sure that entrepreneurs and businesses can operate in a healthy way. You know, that's what I'm advocating for, and that's where I find myself now. This photo here is interesting. You know, sometimes you get to meet with policymakers, and, you know, this was then Senator Kamala Harris's team, meeting with them to talk about policy. And sometimes, you know, you got to take these opportunities as they come up. But, you know, interesting, just being a simple surfer, now working with some folks up in DC to make sure that our coastal economies remain intact. Chelsea, next slide, please. One of the other things that I've looked at is combining what I have been learning from the Business Alliance of how do I bring together business leaders, environmentalists and organizations and lawmakers. I created a summit. It's called the Rising Tide Summit, where I bring all different stakeholders together to convene in dialogue and discussion of what can we do as a society from all different sectors to protect our coastal economies and our oceans. And it's been wildly successful, but you know, it's once again, it's combining my passion for the ocean and the business industry and the business sectors. Next slide, please. So with all of this said, what you've heard so far, what one of the things that I've learned is that what's good for the environment is good for the economy. And you know, when we protect our ocean and environment, we can protect our economy and create jobs. And coastal businesses rely on the ocean economy, or what is now being called the blue economy. Chelsea, next slide, please. I wanted to recreate this slide, but this one was so good that I really couldn't, you know, think of, you know, creating one myself. But if you look at the blue economy and what folks in California are working on, is that they are realizing that the ocean, a clean and healthy and thriving ocean, contributes to not only California's economy, but every coastal state and through Middle America, whether it's renewable energy, fisheries, maritime programs, waste management, climate change, and tourism. The blue economy is thriving, and this is where I am being asked to weigh in even more and more on a regular basis, bringing the business acumen, working with business leaders and CEOs and bringing their concerns or interests into meetings with local, state, and federal leaders, but also continuing to advocate alongside organizations like Surfrider Foundation and Oceana. Next slide, please, Chelsea. So let me bring it down to earth a little bit more. That was the 50,000-foot view of the blue economy, but what can we do? You know, there's a lot of opportunity in our own personal actions, and whether we're students or are about to graduate, or folks who work in different industries or sectors, or maybe you're an entrepreneur, there's something for each of us to do to protect our ocean and the environment and help keep the economy moving along. Chelsea, next slide, please. I think the first thing is at home. You know, what can we do with our own personal choices? And, you know, today and every day, you know, there are more and more opportunities for us to live environmentally friendlier lives. You know, it's not just a reusable bottle or a reusable bag or a reusable straw. There are so many things out there now that can allow us to live eco-friendly lives at home or as we're kind of going about our day. So think about all those. I'm not going to go through each of those because there's so much information out there that, one, it would take a lot of time and I probably wouldn't do it justice, but understand that each of us, whether it's in the dorm room or at our home, we have an opportunity to take advantage of the incredible products that are being created by entrepreneurs who are trying to make environmentally friendly products and help reduce our waste and reduce our impact on this planet. Next slide, please. Work. This is another place where each of us can have an impact, and I'm starting to see this on a regular basis. You're seeing whether it's small offices or large organizations, they're taking action on understanding how to reduce their waste, energy consumption, and whatnot. So if you work in a small office or a medium-sized office or run an organization, take the time to understand what can you do, you know, to reduce the impact and make your workplace more environmentally friendly. There's tons of articles out there and examples that you can look up, but I think at home and work are two key areas that we could focus on. Next slide, Chelsea. Advocacy. This is where, you know, I've been focused on for the last few years, understanding that politics can be divisive, but when it comes to protecting our ocean and our economy, I think we can all agree that those are two good things to work on. So advocacy is big, you know, speaking with local, state, and federal officials, I think has been very helpful to advancing good policy. And I get called up by congressional leaders and senators and federal agencies all the time asking for input from the business perspective. So this is something that we can all participate in as well. And whether it's the home, the workplace, or advocacy, those are three key areas that I believe any one of us can work on to advance, you know, good ocean conservation programs. Chelsea, next slide, please. Today, look, my focus is on educating young people, and I'm proud to serve as the chairman of the Ocean Institute in Dana Point. It's 2.5 acres of some incredible real estate, probably some of the best real estate in California. We have our own tall ships, our own docks and everything. But what excites me most about the Ocean Institute is going back to my personal journey, some of which you heard about in the testimony, being an inner city kid who had never seen the ocean, went to the Port of LA on an oceanography field trip and fell in love with the ocean. The Ocean Institute in Dana Point is proud to serve more than 100,000 children, parents, and teachers from low-income communities. For many of these folks, we are their first look at the ocean. It's the first time they'll see the ocean, put a foot in the water, or step on a boat. And it's exciting to start that journey at the very beginning. So between advocacy and working with businesses, I'm also thinking about the long game, and the Ocean Institute is where a lot of my focus is going into, and mostly children and education. And I won't spoil it too much, because I know I think Forrest or Marcelo are going to talk about this, but this Saturday, we're going to have a little get together at the Ocean Institute. So I hope you'll be able to join us if you haven't signed up already. But children and education is really a big focus of mine today. And one of the things that I've added to my my effort to focus on children and education is a children's book. Chelsea, next slide, please. It's one of the things that I've always wanted to do. And I look at it and go, what we need to protect our ocean and our environment is we need a generational shift. We have to start this conversation with children at an early age. And I've done it with my son. That's my boy there, little Vipe. He's 10 years old, but I've seen his journey into conservation and the way that he sees things, the way that he sees the planet is that every day he has a natural tendency to want to protect it, but he appreciates it and respects it as well. So it's up to us to be able to share this conversation and this journey with children and with families. Chelsea, could you play the video, please?
You know, the idea for the book has been in the back of my mind for years, but I really didn't have an idea of what I would want to write about, what message would be involved. When my son was born and I took him down to the beach for the first time and I saw how he connected with the waves and the sand and the beach and everything, something sparked in my mind.
When the sun hit his eyes and the smell of surf filled his nose, it was time for Mr. Dude to jump out of bed and grab his surfboard.
When kids have a sense of discovery and they get to figure this stuff out on their own, it sticks with them. This is an opportunity to inspire children to do the right thing. When children are inspired, I think the message sticks with them more, and they grow up with that experience in mind. And that's where in the back of the book, children are invited to take the pledge.
I give my pledge to save and faithfully to defend from waste the natural resources of my country, its air, soil, and minerals, and its forests, waters, and wildlife.
The ocean is such a powerful resource on this planet. And without a healthy ocean, there are no healthy people, planet, or profit. So everything is at stake when it comes to protecting the ocean. The radical undersea journey of Mr. Dude is just one way I can contribute to helping young people find a message that they can connect with to help protect this incredible resource that we have for not only their generation, but for future generations.
Thank you, Chelsea. I know we're coming up to the close of this presentation. Chelsea, if we could put on slide 16 with the cup, that would be great. You know, look, I'm just a simple surfer. I just wanted to surf. That's it. I wanted to hang out at the beach. And I think I would have been happy being a beach bum. But I found myself on this journey. And now I find myself, you know, having a voice to help, you know, shape policy and help folks make good decisions. And it's been a 30-year journey for me. And, you know, 30 years ago, when you talked about this discussion that we're having about protecting our ocean and how we do it, you know, people looked down upon me. And they looked down upon other people. They thought that we were hippies and that we were trying to, you know, just like save the planet and, you know, stay away from those folks. But today it's a badge of honor. You know, if you're not doing something to protect our ocean and respect our planet, I think, you know, people, you know, look away. So the problems facing our planet aren't going to be solved overnight. And look, it's a billion different actions every single minute that will need to change. But I hope all of you can take something away from this conversation, that we all have a role to play, whether it's at home or work, or even being part of an advocacy movement. Your voice is needed, whether you're a student or getting ready to graduate or an entrepreneur or, you know, career-minded. Next slide, please. And this will be the last slide. Look, I'll just leave it with you. Without a healthy ocean, there are no healthy people, planet, or profits at the end of the day. That's it. You know, it's as simple as that. Protecting our environment is protecting our livelihoods. Thanks so much for letting me share this message. I know it was quick, but that's been my journey. And I'm so fortunate to have been able to start it at Point Loma. So thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Great, thanks, Vipe. I know if you were in a room, you'd hear us. I'll give you a round of applause. So thank you for joining us. This has been informative, not only about our oceans, but I think about growth path, career path, passion path, something that we do with our student alumni ambassadors who are on with us today. During their interview processes, not talk about what career they want, but what kind of path they're on to discovering, you know, their passions, what they're interested in. And it's been inspiring to me that you could take, to never stray from the passion of surf for you and how you created a life around that. I think that's inspiring for me to look back and think about what are my passions and how do I create a life around that, instead of try to find a job and then squish your passion into that career. I think you've gone about it in a really beautiful way. So thank you for sharing that the fullness of your journey that you can in 45 minutes with us. But we do have some really great questions here for you. Okay. I'm going to start first about climate change. Jimmy Smith is saying climate change is one of the many threats to ocean life. How would you propose we unite and compel action?
Yeah, look, that's a great question. Climate change is probably one of the top 3 issues we face in society today. You know, a couple of years ago, you know, I probably wouldn't have put the pandemic on that list, but the pandemic is number 1, climate change is number 2. And I think, you know, political divisiveness is number 3. So looking at climate change, look, I think, you know, the action that we need to take is that there's no silver bullet to solve our problems. We have been in this mode of disrupting the climate for a long time. You know, so we're not going to solve it overnight. But, you know, what I will say is, it's funny because I just, let me see if I can find it. I just read the Ipcc's report on climate change, and it's alarming. But I took some notes down, and, you know, here are the 5 takeaways from the Ipcc report. One is that human influence has unequivocally warmed the planet. That's one takeaway. Second is climate science is getting better and more precise. We're locked into 30 years of worsening climate impacts, no matter what the world does. And climate changes are happening rapidly. And there's still a window in which we can change that path. So it's not one action that's going to solve this problem. It's going to take a billion little actions every single day. And, you know, that could be from how we consume energy to how we how we become mobile, whether it's clean energy, regenerative agriculture. There's a number of actions that we need to take, but climate change is one of the top issues that we are facing and our future generations are facing.
Sure. I think the point about that our technology to track climate change has increased significantly is an interesting point. To that same effect, from the I Suck campaign, curious if there's clear measurable impact that that's had. You know, the number that they said was 2050, I believe, that there'll be more plastic in the ocean, you know, than fish. Wondering if that campaign and others have contributed, if we've seen a decrease, or if that's still a big action step we're needing to take to continue to decrease that amount of plastic going into the ocean.
Yeah, there is still a lot of work to be done to decrease the amount of plastic that is going into our ocean. It's really that, you know, there are second and third world countries that unfortunately are contributing to this problem even more so, and not by any fault of their own. The fault is from the businesses that are, you know, in first world countries that are making these products out of plastic packaging and then exporting them. So folks in second and third world countries don't have this choice to look at alternative packaging. So here in the United States, we can go to the restaurant and refuse a straw or ask for a paper straw, but in other parts of the world, that's not as easy to do. So impact, I would say, not as rapidly as we need to, but once again, kind of going back to, like, if we can start with our young children and teach them, that will be the generational shift that we need to make those rapid changes globally.
I think Maddie had a good question kind of in the same vein of what do we do? What's next around advocacy? As you were speaking about, you know, starting the H2O Winter Classic, you know, getting on a board, sitting on a board, speaking to state and federal officials, like these are all really exciting things. But, you know, to your point earlier, like how do you even get to a point to make that happen? You know, again, we were talking to Vipe before everyone jumped on earlier about SAAs. We want you to know people. We don't need you to find a career in this. We want you to know people and know their stories and hear they got to their stories. So Maddie's specific question was, what do you recommend for someone to start in regards to advocacy? You know, it's so overwhelming to look up your local official and to know what to say and what are you really passionate about, and, you know, how to communicate that. So that's the first part of the question. What's the first step for advocacy? And then she was specifically asking about what did you first take to one day end up testifying in front of a bigger crowd? So starting, what do you think we should do to advocate? And then how did you get there yourself?
Yeah. You know, look, I would start with passion first. That would be my first message. It's what's worked for me is that I found something that I loved. And not only did I love doing it, which was surfing, but I loved being in the ocean. And along the way, I started learning other things about the ocean, of like seeing trash on the beach and having to deal with sewage spills as well. You know, that kind of led me to be more curious about, well, what's going on here and how can I change my behavior? What can I do? So, you know, look, what I shared today can be overwhelming because I didn't go from like surf dude to like, right. Testifying guy. You know, that was a long journey of 30 years. So start with your passion, and more important, I would say, is just take the first step. Start the journey. I think sometimes people want to get from here to there real quickly. And there are so many incredible lessons and people to meet along the way that, you know, you don't want to miss out on that. I think that is what has gotten me to where I am today. The people that I've met, the stories that I've heard, and being inspired by other folks as well. So I would say just start with something and allow yourself to learn and continue understanding, well, hey, I did this, now I'm ready to try something else. Or, hey, somebody said something really interesting, I want to learn more about this, and follow that. Be on that continuous learning journey. At 54, I am on that continuous learning journey. I meet people all the time, and I love meeting young people because they teach me something about myself, but also what more I can do. So that's in a nutshell. I mean, I can't point to one thing that says, do this and you'll go here. It's passion, just start your journey and continue learning is what I would say. And Kendall, there was a second part to that question. Can you just refresh?
I think you answered it. It was, how did you get to the point of being comfortable speaking in front of a larger crowd and advocating? But I think you answered that saying that it was a much longer journey than what we were able to discuss in this moment in time. And just taking that first step, being passionate about it, makes it easier, I would imagine, to speak on something on behalf of what your passions come from. Absolutely.
The Vipe from 1991 would not have been qualified to testify before members of Congress.
Right.
Okay. It's like that was 2019. Okay. So there was a big gap between that surf guy and, the suit guy. So understand that it takes time to, get to where we want to. But I had a lot of help with that too. There was an incredible team of conservation groups and attorneys and lawmakers and staffers who were guiding me on that testimony. So I made sure that, it's like, it was one of those things where I couldn't screw up because, my testimony was in the record of Congress. So I had to get it right, but it took a while, and it unfolded just the way that I would have hoped.
Well, I wish we had time for more questions, right? There are some deep dive questions that, we would love to get into, but I'm going to close with this before we hear from Forrest. I loved this question from Samuel. What has been the most fulfilling part of your journey / what accomplishment or moment are you proudest of?
Oh gosh. Wow. I think it would have to be testifying before Congress, aside from my son. Okay. My son has been the greatest gift to me. But I would say being able to testify before members of Congress and to carry the voices of 55,000 plus businesses to Capitol Hill, advocating for all of my friends and family members and the entrepreneurs that have made a living from the coast. That's been, one of my proudest moments, to be that voice and, not squander that opportunity. It was a big responsibility, and I hope it's helped folks to, maintain their livelihoods, and they found some sort of value from it. But, it was an incredible honor to be that voice for so many folks. They could have picked anybody, and I told them, I go, if you can find somebody better, please do. But if you can't, I'd be happy to come up to DC. And they thought that I'd be a good idea. So that's been my proudest moment.
Being available in the moment. Yeah, wonderful.
Absolutely.
Well, Vipe, I feel like we were able to take away not only some easy first steps towards conserving our oceans, advocating for our oceans, and being just aware of the gifts that we've been given with the ocean and the way it really truly impacts our everyday lives and our economy, but also journey mapping for our businesses that we want to run someday, or taking that leap of faith to purchase a surf shop right out of college. I mean, again, I've just been inspired on both sides, the advocacy, ocean conservation, but also, your journey. And we're so grateful for you sharing that with us today. So thank you for your time. If you have any resources you want to provide to us, we're happy to send that out in an email after this to our participants so that they can figure out, what their next steps could be, get more information about the Ocean Institute, the work that you're doing there. I'm going to throw it to Forrest, who's going to share a little bit about our outing at the Ocean Institute. But again, thank you, Vipe, for being with us today.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed being here. And I'll say one last thing. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so please do reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with all you young folks out there, and just share whatever else I can and answer any other questions that we weren't able to get to today.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Vipe, Kendall, Chelsea, Janelle, the whole team for bringing this conversation to the spotlight here. It's been really fulfilling. I've really enjoyed it. My name is Forrest Case. I graduated in 2019 with a double business major. I'm in Orange County, and I'm the Orange County alumni representative. So I'm the regional representative, and so I get to do fun stuff like this. Again, I've loved this time, and the best part about this for me is this is part one. Part two is Saturday, and this Saturday we'll be joining a whale and marine life cruise at the Ocean Institute at Data Point. Check-in is at 9:30 a.m. and we will return by 12:30 p.m. Afterwards, we will have access to the Ocean Institute until 3 p.m. Be sure to register online by tomorrow. It is $20 a person, and we are limited in spots, so be sure to register ASAP. You're not going to want to miss out on this. I didn't realize that this was the same place. As a fun fact. Last time I was here, it was 7 years ago, and it was my junior prom. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of a better experience. I'm very excited about it. So hope to see you all there. I know I'll be there.
I'll be there too. So more opportunity for us to chat and keep this talk going.
Awesome. Awesome.
Fantastic. Thanks, Forrest. My last time maybe not the last time I was at the Institute, but I went as a young child, actually, and I dissected a squid. And I remember distinctly, I was probably 10 years old. We took a bone out of the squid and we poked the ink sac and got to write our names in squid ink. So lots to see at the Ocean Institute, lots to do from junior prom to squid dissection. We hope to see you there. Thanks everyone for joining us today.
Hey, real quick, one last thing, Chelsea, real quick. I'm making a wild decision right now, but I'd be happy to sponsor up to 10 students to join us on Saturday. Okay, so I will pay for it, and I'd be happy to sponsor 10 students. So if there are students that want to join us, let me know and let's get them on board to come down.
That's amazing. They can reach out to me and we can connect, Vipe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Very generous of you. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We hope to see you Saturday. Have a great rest of your day.
Take care, guys.